We have Jason Tao, Brian. This is why there are This is why there is. Wait, there are. Is that grammar?
Passport bros.
This is
There
why there's
are?
a passport bro movement.
No, 45 to 50% of women ages 30 and older will be single by 2030. Brian, what do you in the panel? By the way, it's with an I. How dare you, Jason? What do you in the panel think about the passport bro, and do you and the panel agree with the passport bro movement? Me personally, I think it's cool. I think if you are, go to where you're appreciated, and if you're a guy and you're in the West and you cannot find eligible partner that's going to appreciate you here in the West, then, and you can find that in Latin America, Southeast Asia, wherever it may be, Eastern Europe, go for it.
Can you kind of elaborate on passport bros?
Well, passport bros, basically, it's men who are dissatisfied with the women in the local environment. So typically you find them in Western countries. So the United States, other Western countries, probably UK, Australia, just Western countries that are probably like a little more
Different values.
starting to go a bit woke and like, yeah. So they'll often go to Latin America. They'll often go to
So it's like
Thailand or Vietnam
Europe?
or just various
Colombia.
Mail order
different
side?
countries.
Is that what we're talking about?
No, well, not necessarily,
Not quite.
but where the perception is that in these countries, women are more traditional, they're more feminine, et cetera, and so they're moving there. And I think one interesting thing is men from
moving
other
there?
countries. So we have men from Western countries in the U.S. that are going to these other countries to find women, but there's no men from other countries coming to the U.S. clamoring to get with American women. So
I'd just like to add, in terms of the passport bro movement, I would encourage men to be careful, because like as a Western man, I mean, I've seen it before. I've had friends that are like passport bros or whatever. I've dated passport bros before, and I kind of noticed that they have a tendency to be more effed over, if you will, or used for their money. Usually if they're coming from Western societies, have a passport, citizenship, stuff like that. I would urge men to be careful and not to just think that the world is kind of their playground, although I would not judge them for wanting to go to a different country to find a woman of different value.
I think you should be careful here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Of course. I mean, that goes without saying, right?
50% divorce rate.
So I know. But I've seen the videos like of passport bros coming out and being like, "Oh, I got duped. Like I got played by."
Yeah.
I
Of
know
course.
3 passport bros. I don't know if anyone here personally knows them. I know 3, and none of them have a great ending. I'm not saying I'm against it, but I do think there's a little more to it, I think, than it seems on the surface. And I'm only speaking anecdotally. I'm sure a lot of men have gone and found wonderful women. I think that's great. If the women here aren't satisfactory to them, go. But it is not all sunshine and rainbows going to another country and finding a woman.
yeah, I mean, I don't think the whole passport bros thing, it's like, wow, this is just gonna, there's certainly room for things to not work out
I mean,
well, but
I mean, the passport, like one that I know went to South America, found a woman, dated her for a while, brought her back here, and then as soon as she could divorce him, she did, got her citizenship.
Yep, that's something
So
to be-
then,
yeah.
so he went back to South America.
got another one.
He's currently there, and he will not leave the country because he's like, I know that the woman will leave me if I take her to America. So the thing that men need to understand is, by all means, go and do that. But if they're under the impression that those women don't see them as a resource, and even more of a resource than the average American woman,
Yes.
they just need to know that. And if they're okay with the sex money exchange and being seen as a resource, and that's not all women and it's not all men, but I also know one who's here, he's in his 70s now, like he was one of the first passport bros, and he has a wife who's like 30 years younger than him. She waits on him hand and foot, does all the things. I mean, she's a servant to him. Ultimately, she's waiting for him to die so she can have his house, have his money. Does she love him? Yes. Are they in love? No. But that's an option if that's something you're into.
I want to touch on that in
Prometheus
just a sec.
donated
but-
$100.
Thank you, Prometheus.
Big Ed Brown, if you can call him Big Ed, was passport bro from 90 Day Fiance.
See, that's why I was super confused when like I first heard about passport bros, because like growing up, all I ever really knew about like those type of relationships was like from what I've seen in 90 Day Fiance, where it's like not even just with a man coming from America, even like when it's women sometimes and men from other countries, it's usually so obvious that they're just trying to either get a visa or get some money.
Sure.
That's why I was like surprised when I heard that it was like not for those reasons. Like I don't.
Well, I think it could be toxic when it's mixed with red pill rhetoric. So like you have the passport bros kind of fall under like this red pill movement, and I think that like the red pill movement a lot of the times say that like, you know, get as much money as you can, be successful, be a high value man, and that also includes providing for women. And so when you combine that philosophy or that value system of provisioning for women, and then you combine that with being a passport bro, you're more likely and more inclined to get screwed over, and that's my concern.
Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, well, certainly these men who are passport bros can certainly be preyed upon, and some of these women certainly may be predatory. However, I'm sure there's, in the same way that there's men who are getting, screwed over, or it's a very transactional relationship, I'm sure there's also women in these countries that are happy to actually have a genuine relationship with these men. So, I mean, and also a lot of these men, some of them might bring the women back here, but a lot of them are expats, and they're just going to live in fucking
That's true.
Thailand or the Philippines or wherever it is, and
It's probably
they've
smarter.
just moved there, and
because
it's
of
much
they
more
bring-
the
Now, are
cost of
women
living
doing
is.
this too,
Yeah,
or
it's
is it
cheaper.
just men?
Women?
Women really don't. I don't think women travel
Passport gals,
else.
like
I don't think that's a thing. I mean, maybe.
Well, I
there's
mean,
some,
like, because I've heard of, obviously, like, bringing younger men here, like, older women, you know what I mean? Getting younger
pretty
men.
rare,
Yeah, I've
I
never
suspect.
heard
But
that before.
You know?
It happens.
oh, sorry, hold on. Just
I think, and it's going to result in me kind of posing a question to the panel here. I think what I can appreciate about Passport Bros is I think it's an effective, like, flag being raised for Western women as well. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that they're going to find someone. I'm not saying that they're not going to get screwed over. I'm not even necessarily saying that I would encourage men to go do it. Like you said, if you want to, cool, go do it. I do think, though, that the motivation for it is the fact that men are still expected to act very traditionally. They're expected to be very chivalrous. They're expected, you know, to be protectors. Maybe they're not expected to provide to the same extent now that women can essentially match them on income up to basically a certain point where maybe men start to be willing to negotiate harder as they get older. Maybe women decide to settle down and be mothers to put a sort of halt in their career. Talk about that, right? But men don't need to be as strict of provisioners the way that they used to be. But they still need to be protectors. They still need to take care of you. They still are expected to do things like open your door, give the jacket, like when you're cold, things like that. But if that's what a man's duty to you is, to be chivalrous, it's very, very loosely defined what a woman's duty
Absolutely.
to a man is.
It's very ambiguous.
And that is why I think they go to places where they are actually taught from a young age how to treat a man. What is your duty to a man? And whether you want to talk about in the context of the word submission, which I know that a lot of girls don't like, me and her use the word deference instead of submission. Sounds a little bit better. It's like she wants to defer to her man a little bit more than he defers to her, which is essentially submitting. But I would love to know what you guys think. If men have those duties to you, and that's an expected duty, what do you think your duty to men is?
I think that's the importance of having, for me personally, having my identity with God. And because in the Bible it lays out what a woman should be. In
Proverbs 31?
31, I actually read that today. Yes, and it's beautiful. You know, it's nothing that holds women back. And instead it, like, you embrace your natural state. You know, it's like you thrive the most in this setting. And so I feel like I feel like all women can thrive most when they have a relationship with God. So that's my stance.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I don't agree with that you have to have a relationship with God. Could you repeat the question again?
Well, I said...
What do I think about deference or submission?
Well,
Just
not
essentially,
necessarily.
what is the female equivalent of chivalry?
Yeah. If men have a duty to you, and we sort of define that duty as chivalry, this concept, right? What would be the female version of chivalry?
Well,
what would female duty to a man look
I would
like?
say due to fourth wave feminism, it's become so amorphous. But I would say that we're probably going to see a division of like women that are hyper feminine